Well, here we are, the end of the road for the Sako 75. Everything is completed, and we are ready to do some reassembly and a final kind of wrap up of this entire job. It's a little bit sad, a little bit bittersweet, isn't it? It was a fun little journey we had bringing this guy back. So as you can see, all the parts have been nicely Cerakoted by our certified professional Cerakote applicator. Very, very nice job, nicely done. Even did the sling swivel studs, the latches, everything. Screws have been recoated. Oop, let me just scratch it. Okay, so yep, we got there's the barreled action. Nice graphite black. No, armor black. I think this is armor black. But yes, the entire barreled action. There's a laser engraving of the cartridge information and the twist rate of the barrel. And then our sweet, sweet logo on the other side. Okay, and then what else we got? Oh, look at that. I decided to go ahead and jewel this bolt because it was kind of plain looking. And just look at that. Doesn't that just make it? Doesn't that just boost the class? Classiness boosted. Right? So that guy has been jeweled by yours truly. There's over 300 jewels on this guy. And it turned out very nice. If I do say so myself. Something about jeweling, it just, man, just adds a whole nother level of class to things. Okay, so on the bench here, we got all the components laid out, ready to go. Oh, the stock too, yes. We did repair those couple little chip outs. So if you remember, there was one here and one right there. Well, we're not going to let that kind of crap go. So we repaired the bedding. Now it is nice and no more chips. Right? So bedding is repaired. Everything is ready to be put back together. So since we got the stock, let's go ahead and just put these sling swivel studs back in. These are pretty easy. They're just little wood screws. So, and we've already got provisions for them here on the stock. Screw that back in. Back one. They're both the same, so it doesn't matter. Just grab something to turn it with. All the way in. This one needs another turn in. Or two. Okay. I believe I mentioned this in the beginning, but it was not in the budget to refinish the stock. And it's really not in bad shape. There's a few little dings here and there. Little guy there, but you know, it's fine. Now, let's go ahead and put this floor plate back together. So, you know, this side is the bottom because it's got this little dish. That little dish would be facing outward, which means this is going to go back together like so. And its screw. Yep, she even repainted that screw. And there's your trigger guard and magazine frame, I suppose. Magazine was repainted on the bottom. Again, very, very nicely. You can see it was masked off appropriately. Still works. Okay, so we'll put this back in the bottom where it belongs. Just like that. Start here at the bolt head. Got that extractor. I believe I showed this earlier, but the sleeve has been, so double sleeve bolt, as you saw earlier. The front sleeve is relieved there, nice little radius cut back in it to allow the extractor to be reinstalled and have room to pivot still and be actually disassembled if ever needed. Okay, so there's a couple little parts here that go underneath that. There is a spring and a plunger, if you recall. So the plunger has a tiny little stem, and that just goes inside the spring just like that. And the extractor itself. So the little spring goes in the little hole right in there, right where my thumbnail goes. That little hole, little spring goes in the hole, then the little plunger follows it in just like that. Now, we have to fish this down in, and the little plunger has to slip over and catch right there on that ledge. Okay, so I'm just going to push this in and then kind of try to force that little round part into that round hole. So again, I'm not going to take this apart, so what I'm doing is pushing forward and down until it locks into place. Just like that. There it goes. You'll hear it snap in, and you can see how it's captured. Much easier to install than uninstall. Much easier to reassemble than it is to disassemble. You saw me struggling, trying to get that out of there. It's really tricky. You got to push down and fish it out. And yeah, refer to the disassembly video if you want to see how to take that out. It'll be the first video in this series. So anyway, there is our extractor back in. Like I said, much, much easier to put back in. Okay, great. Now all we got left is the firing pin assembly or striker assembly. So for that, we're going to need the bolt shroud, firing pin spring, and I think that's it for this. Yeah. Okay, spring goes inside the pin, and you can see we repainted the cocked indicator mark there, real nice. She's got this fancy little calligraphy style looking pen that does that. It's pretty sweet. All right, now, let me think here. Yeah, this just gets shoved back in the bolt. Now, the only thing that holds it in is this little cam. The little cam on the stem here. And so you just got to get it in there just right and then twist. And it locks in. So it looks like this slot's got to be towards the handle, and then we turn it. Well, let's put it in like this so we don't get lost down here. So we're going to go in and turn. And this is probably going to take some pressure. See if I can do this without shooting it across the room again. Strong spring. And okay. Whew, got it in. And then we're just gonna rotate it till it clicks into its little spot there. So there is the bolt completely reassembled, and I managed not to scratch it. But I had to get this just in my lap so I could have some leverage and just shove it in and twist it real strong like. So there's a bolt, that's all done. Now I got a bunch of these little bits and pieces here, put back in the receiver section. All right, first thing first is our recoil lug. So you'll see that's a little round hole, well, I guess blind hole. And in the receiver itself has a threaded portion on the front of the recoil lug area here. Well, they decided to make that separate. So you need a number 2 or a metric size 2. Number 2 metric hex head wrench. That's what I'm trying to say. And that screws in right here up front. Again, being careful to not scratch anything. All right, now we can kind of just put this lug in here. Obviously you want that cut out facing the screw. And that should kind of self-center itself as the screw comes in. Now I'm kind of feeling the sides. I want to make sure this is centered as I tighten that screw. And there's your recoil lug. It's nicely installed back into the bottom of the receiver. Okay, now I got this funky thing, this magazine guide, I think it is. Serves some purpose. And the silver Torx head screw. And that's going to go right here. I know the trigger goes on, but there's this ejector that goes like there. Appears to be a blind hole holding this in. And that pin sticks way out. That goes there. Looks like we have to put the bolt release in first. Glad I noticed that. Yeah. So that goes in, and then this pin must keep it in. Keep it from falling out. Just put a little dab of grease on it. And that'll help keep it in. Yeah, that's definitely the right spring. All right, bolt release. Very easily reinstalled. Spring on the back. Pin goes through the hole, and it just keeps it in there. Now the ejector pin is going to keep that pin from coming out. And that has 2 little springs for 2 little holes. So those 2 springs go into those 2 holes. And then we're going to put it in place and try to shove its keeper pin back in. There it goes. Okay, now there is our ejector reinstalled. Just like that. So let's see. Maybe I'll give this a little tap. Yeah, it's bottomed out all the way. So is that one. Okay, and now we got one more springy and one more pin. So the final spring is going to go into the magazine latch. And that, hopefully this is the correct pin, because it's the only one left. Looks like a swage pin, so I'm just kind of seeing which side it wants to go back into. This feels like that side. And just kind of get this roughly in place. Just like that. There we go. Magazine latch is back in action. Now we got the trigger. You got this big beefy number 5 metric cap screw. That's the only thing that holds it in. So we'll just screw that in, give it a good yark, and that's it. It's installed. So magazine goes right in there. Releases just fine. Now we'll test the bolt with the trigger. We're going to make sure we have no ammunition in there. Okay, good. And then we're going to carefully insert our bolt because we don't want to scratch anything. Brand new jeweling and all that good stuff. Okay, that's good. Closes, fires. Sweet. And looks like the ejector works as it should. And this little lever releases the handle. So if you want to keep it on safe and empty your rounds, you push this down. You can open your bolt with the safety still engaged. So that's kind of nice little feature. Bolt release is on this side, the actual bolt release. Okay, there we go. Great. So that's all that. Really easy, real simple. No frills there. It's all very, very simple reassembly. So if you can't figure that out, you probably shouldn't be messing around with riffles. Go back to your AR. I think ARs are even more complicated than this. Okay, so let's get the stock back on. Since it's been pillar bedded, you can see, if you didn't see the pillar bedding portion of this series, shame on you, but there's 2 pillars that were custom made for this job. A little bit complicated because of the geometry involved, but no big deal. But because it's been pillar bedded, we can go ahead and just do this. Normally I'll do this in a vise to keep everything from moving and shaking. But it should just drop in real nice. Like that. Yep. Okay. So it's held in there without any screws, but you can easily take it apart if you need to. And then the long screw goes in the back. Short screw goes in the front. And I will torque that down off camera. We'll go to maybe 45 inch-pounds. Call it good. But there we go. There's the magazine back in place. Yeah, it turned out real nice. So there you go. There is your Sako 75. Version 5. Back together, brand new barrel, recoated, pillar bedded stock, jeweled bolt, dual bolt. Yeah, look at that. That's nice. That's pretty. Yeah, that just adds just that final level of class. Okay, I don't think I did any real in-depth on this whole thing here, but we've got a Recknagel Picatinny rail for the Sako 75. As far as I could tell, this is the only manufacturer that actually makes a Picatinny rail for the Sako 75. Let's get into this, see what we got. Look at that. Yeah, that's a good quality piece of... is this Denmark? Can't remember where they're from. Somewhere in the European area of the world. Okay, now the Sako, as many of you probably know, has this proprietary kind of a dovetailish, kind of tapered dovetailish mount for optics, and it is not the best. The opposing ring has, see how that's textured? The opposing ring has texturing as well, so that kind of helps keep it from sliding around or whatever. It's got a recoil lug here that sits in that little U-shaped groove, keeps it from moving. But they're still, you know, they're tapered, so they get bigger this way, so it's impossible for them to go forward. That's a cool design and all, but I don't know, just not like the most modern solution for mounting an optic. So a customer wanted a rail. He actually asked me to make him one, custom. And I said, hell, well, of course I could make you one, but why do that when we can just buy this Recknagel that's already made to the exact proper specifications. This would have taken me a long time on a manual machine. Lots of R&D and trial and error, and just stuff I don't have time for. I barely have time for making these videos anymore, which is great, don't get me wrong, but let's be real here. Now, how do we do this? You're gonna give me some instructions? No? Oh boy, no instructions. I don't know what to do. So let's just unscrew some stuff and see what happens. Okay, unscrew that one. And that's gonna let go of the bottom portion. All right, so that was held in here by one screw. Oh no. Wait, what? Okay, so there's just, It appears as though there are jam nuts to hold this in place. So we're gonna slide this on. And back out on those jam nuts, so they're probably metric. It's made in Europe. Let's back those out, and here's where I'm going to scratch the Cerakote. But I think we need to go forward a little more. So let's get this bolt out of here real quick. Little tappy tap tap. I'm just going to kind of keep that loose for now. And we'll unscrew this other one. So it looks like the same concept for the forward portion of this. And we got a T-nut of some sort up here. So we'll set that down. Let's focus on this part first. And it too has a taper. And some jam nuts. It's definitely only going to go on one way. That's for sure. Okay. Okay, I guess we just got to tap that up into place. You know, I'm a good gunsmith and I can usually figure stuff out, but hate to assume, you know. Because that right there is getting quite tight, difficult. And it surely has to go forward more. Surely. That's got to go there. That's there. So, I don't know, we're close. Just hate to... Yeah, that is definitely tight. Try it some more. God. Okay. I might consult the internet real quick. I mean, what else could there be, right? Can't be possibly any other way to go on. I just assumed it would get, like, you know, pretty far forward until it started getting so tight that it wouldn't move. Same with this one, maybe a little bit more towards the middle. All right, that one's still moving. Now it's not. Luckily, we're almost there to the back. These nuts are definitely loose. Huh. Okay, well, that's got to be it. I am going to put this in a vise so I don't, so I can make sure I'm not hitting anything other than this part, and see if I can't get these a little bit further forward. Okay, so that is as far as I could get them. It's flush. It is definitely flush. It's not sticking out. This one is just barely sticking out, but I'm telling you, it is not moving. I have to get out a big hammer and just, it's going to mar the crap out of that, so I'm not going to do that. We'll let the customer do that if he wants. And then up front here, we've got this slidable deal, so I'm sure that's going to be like we're having here. It's going to let you adjust for the placement of those bases. This back one sits in there, doesn't move. Front one sits where it sits. And we'll put this screw in the back. And I will definitely Loctite these and torque them down later, but that is the Recknagel Picatinny rail option. So not bad at all. Plenty of room there to get your fingies down there to load some rounds. Doesn't obstruct things too much. It's going to hold that pretty high up. Looks like a pretty good MOA, 20 or better MOA elevation in the back. And then, like I said, that's holding it pretty far up over the receiver, you know, so you're going to have some super low rings and probably a cheek riser to really use this. At least I would. These are never high enough for me. Right, but, you know, whatever. So there it is. That is the final piece for this installation and completion of this fine finished firearm. Right, the Sako 75 is ready for returning home to its customer in Texas, here in the great old US of A. So thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. This is Geoff with Accurate Rifles and Restoration signing out. We'll see you on the next one.